I can't stop. I've tried every imaginable remedy to stop, but I couldn't stop. My liver was shutting down, and Dr. Ian Cleater, who did this surgery on me, I had scopes upside me and downside me, and the nurse said, "Do we want to put him out?" And Ian said, "No, I want him to hear this."
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, man. Just really appreciate being here.
Yeah. Well, I came across your channel on YouTube, DrewCouver, and I checked out some of your content, and like it's some hard-hitting stuff, man. You're interviewing people in the downtown Lower East Side right now. You've done a lot of work there, and you're talking about some of like the single occupancy challenges that they're facing in that area, and a whole bunch of really impactful things you're talking about. and then the next day you're talking about how to make ginger shots and how to be healthy and all of it, you know. So I'm like, this guy's as messed up as I am. I better get him on here.
Full spectrum.
Yeah.
Full spectrum, bro.
Yeah,
We
the
live in
internal
full
family
spectrum.
system on full display. DrewCouver.
You know, I'm thoroughly dedicated to assisting those in need downtown East Side.
Why don't you take us back? Like, was this something that started? Were you born into this, or was this something you found on your own?
Just got some chills there when you asked me that. So I was raised in a really cool family, pretty eclectic, you know, 6 brothers and sisters. I'm 5 of 7. There was a moment there in my life, I was probably between 8 and 11, that there was some sexual abuse that happened as a result of my parents just being so overwhelmed with all the kids and everything that they introduced me to a big brother. And that led into me hiding out. But that was pretty much a turning point for that little boy inside. I left school in the second month of grade 9. I couldn't be around girls. I just was so intimidated by females. And I also, like, you know, was a really good athlete. So there was always a lot of competition. So that pressure was just too overwhelming for me. So I disappeared. In my own mind, I had perfection. It was written on my forehead when I looked in the mirror. I had to be that guy. And if I couldn't be, I just ran and hid, ducked and covered, bob and weaved.
When did the substance use start?
Listen, the substance use started, I think I was around grade 4. And then within 3 minutes, I was not crying anymore. I was not afraid. And I was totally calm. And it was then that I realized that if I didn't want to feel a negative way, I could take something, and within 5 minutes, I had no more feeling. I was always a big guy, so when I was in grade 9, I was 6'2", and I lied about my age so that I could go firefighting. So I went into the bush flying helicopter. I wasn't flying helicopters, but I was in the bush fighting fires with grown men that are in their 30s and 40s, like professional firefighters. So I always felt that I had to prove through my addiction that I could be part of that group. And that was kind of my escapism. So it wasn't a short time after that that I felt that Prince George was not working, and I left. I hitchhiked to Vancouver with a friend. We moved in with some serious family friends of my buddies. They were part of a motorcycle club. I thought to myself, I can't be part of this. People were asking if I wanted to move some duffel bags from this side of town to that side of town. And I saw some other things like the shooter things and stuff like that. And I just knew that the way I was, if I stuck around those type of people, I may not have a long lasting life. And it scared me. It actually scared me. And so I left. I got out of there as fast as I could. And the drinking became the most important thing. So, you know, there I was probably about, you know, by the time I was 20, in complete disarray, I was always involved in athletics. So the weekends were always filled with sports. I always had basketball and football to fall onto. There was a football tournament in South Vancouver. I was partying all night with my roommates. I had a game at 9 o'clock. I'll never forget. It's clear as day. I jumped up. I'm like, oh my God, it's like the game starts in 15 minutes. I could throw my stuff on and sprint, and I'll probably get there for kickoff. So I jumped onto the field, and all the guys, you could tell they were excited I was there. And then Buddy looked at me and he says, Andrew, do this. And I guess I had a whole bunch of white powder all over my face. And once I learned that morning that my teammates didn't have my back because I didn't have their back, I knew my sports had ended. And when that happened, then everything collapsed in my heart and in my spirit. Everything collapsed. And then I just found myself in my house for the last maybe 6 months, just hiding out. And that hit me down hard, fast. And I lost everything really quick. And I stayed that way for a while. Then it happened. Then I couldn't pay rent for 3 months because my drinking and my drugging was more important. And my buddy, my roommate, was a super nice guy. I still have conversations with him today. He put all my stuff from my bedroom in the garage for me and said, there's the garage. You're not allowed to sleep in the garage, Andrew, but there's your stuff. I love you. I care about you, but you can't pay rent, so you got to leave. This is life consequences. I could figure out how to get food. I could figure out, like, it was the summer months that I had went homeless. So it was easy to sleep in the park. The park's nice. I mean, this is Vancouver. I mean, there's beautiful community centers. I mean, it's a nice place, Vancouver in the 90s. If you were homeless and you didn't have anything, you had free food, you had, hostels. I mean, it was kind of weird to me. Like, I was sitting there thinking, like, why is it so easy to be homeless? I could go stay at these hostels and you wake up in the morning. They wake you up at 6 or 7 in the morning. They get you, you have a shower. They give you free socks or free shoes or free clothes if you need them. And then they give you a coupon for 10 or 12 bucks so you can go to McDonald's or you can go to 2 different restaurants and have a big, beautiful breakfast. It was almost like they treated you great if you're homeless. That's when breaking into cars in the parking lot started and stealing 6x9s. Like, there was probably 20 pawn shops downtown Vancouver and none of them cared. And then by 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're at the liquor store and you've started your party. So it was easy until it wasn't anymore. Until I realized that, I can't lie to my parents anymore. I was lying to my parents. I think that was the worst. My mom would she'd go to Safeway, She would pay $50 for a gift certificate and she'd send it to the New West Safeway. And then I'd go to the Safeway and I'd get the $50. I trade it in for a pack of smokes and buy some food. And I did that for 4 or 5 months. And then that lifeline disappeared because my mom called the Safeway and the Safeway said, hey, your son taking advantage of you. You know that? And then I called my mom and my dad answered and that stopped. And when that stopped, then I realized that, Daniel, I was on my own. And it wasn't but a month or two after that winter came. And that was my first winter homeless. And that was scary. You weren't allowed to use the hostels as a house, so you couldn't use them 30 days a month. So you had to go find other places to sleep. I can recall going to gas station bathrooms around the back corner and just trying to get an hour of sleep, just once in a while. And you're just walking, you get up in the morning, you just walk aimlessly places and your feet are cold, your body's cold. And I found myself on the street hanging out with the criminal element of the street. And then I became the guy that people would call and say, hey, Andrew, that dude owes us $1,000. Can you go get it? And just go get me 600. You can keep the rest or whatever you can get. The last 10 months of my homelessness, it I'll never forget going into St. Paul's that morning after the hostel, and the guys went to Fresco's to get breakfast, and I went to St. Paul's because my stomach was sore. And next thing I knew, I had scopes up my back end and down my front end, taking pictures of my insides. My stomach, I had massive ulcers. Everything was a mess inside because all I did is drink hard stuff and put stuff down my nose. So it just got to a place where I was in the hospital every couple of weeks. There was a morning there the last couple of months that I was really sick. I woke up in a hostel, and I knew the only place that I could or I should go was to the hospital. My friends were going to breakfast. I was going to hospital. So I got to bed, sat down, got up. I knew I was going to get sick, so I did the projectile vomit, and it hit the curtain, and it hit the bed next to me. And the nurse came and cleaned it. I went to the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I was like, my God, what's wrong? I got like stubble on my face. What's wrong? So I went and laid down, and then it happened again. I did another projectile vomit because my stomach, my body was just pushing out everything that was inside of my body. My liver was shutting down. My stomach was shutting down. My organs were shutting down. And I went back to the bathroom 10 minutes later. I looked in the bathroom again. I looked at my face again. And then I had all these spots actually turned from spots to blotches. And within about 45 minutes, my neck and my face and my chest, they were black and blue. They were bruised. I was completely bruised from like the chest up from projectile vomiting so hard because my organs and everything were shutting down. So as soon as the nurse saw that, it was immediate, like school of doctors around me, putting mainlining me, hooking me up with everything, with heart monitors, with getting IV fluid in me. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. You're sitting there in the hospital going, my life is not over yet. Well, when is it going to be over? Because there was nothing to look forward to anymore. It was just, when is it going to end? I can't stop. I've tried every imaginable remedy to stop that I knew in my mind, but I couldn't stop. That was it for me. My liver was shutting down, and Dr. Ian Cleater, who did this, he did the surgery on me. I had scopes upside me and downside me. And they asked, I'll never forget, the nurse said, do we want to put him out? And Ian said, no, I want him to hear this, because they were talking while they were doing this biopsies and stuff. And he said, Andrew, can you hear me? And I had to sit in my mother, and he goes, Andrew, what are you going to do? And then I could hear him say, now give it to him. And within like 30 seconds, I was asleep. And when I woke up, he asked me that again. He said, Andrew, you're in here all the time. You're not going to live. This is not going to last for you if you keep going down this road. What do you want to live? Or do you want to die? I wanted to get up and punch him in the face.
Yeah.
He told me the truth.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life, someone stopped like being nice. Or are you okay, sir? Oh, dude. Oh, can you need some more water? Oh, do you want a cracker? Oh, no. He just said, the doctor just said, dude, you're going to die. What do you want to do? Do you want to live or do you want to die? That was it.
What did you say?
I want to live.
And what did that look like when you left the hospital?
I went to the bar. So the next couple of weeks, I'm off. I'm running. And it's now live or die. And it wasn't but a couple weeks after that experience in the hospital that I found myself at an after hours party. It was just another night in Andrew's life of trying to get rid of myself. And there was a fight, and I don't really recall much of it. I just remember he pulled a knife out. A couple of hours later, I could just hear someone calling my name, and I could slowly see a shadow. And I could slowly hear this guy, Andrew Brom. Andrew, come back to us. Come on, Andrew. You can make it. Come on back. And I came back to life. I had been stabbed and I had died, and I like legitimately I was like dead. They brought me in the ambulance and I was out, and the doctor brought me back, I guess, with the big adrenaline shot, and I came to. I stayed in the hospital for 7 days. And in those 7 days, it was just like it was a few months ago. Like, this is now, again, I'm in the hospital wasting taxpayers' money. They're trying to take care of me, and I'm trying to die. I left the hospital that morning. It was Tuesday, and I stood on Burrard Street. I found myself walking to the Hotel California at 11:30 in the morning, and it just didn't stop for a couple of months until that morning that I woke up on October 7th, 1996. That was the morning that everything changed.
Hey, let's take a break. Hear from today's sponsors, and then we'll jump back in. Saskatoon's own Heroic Microgreens understands the value of nutrition in mental health, recovery, and coming together in challenging times to ensure everyone has access to nutritious food. And as such, we'd like to thank A1 Accounting Group for their generous contribution to our monthly food bank donation. Would you like to pitch into our monthly donation pool? Shoot me a message through the email in the show notes below. All right, EHN Canada is Canada's leading provider of mental health and addiction services, providing evidence-based, medically assisted care with 1-year wraparound services for those suffering from substance use disorder. In Saskatchewan, their care is 100% supported by Saskatchewan Health. To learn more, find their link in the show notes below. Wellness News, Choice for Healthy Living, is a local resource that works to connect people to health and wellness-related products, services, and expert advice from industry professionals, locally allowing us to connect and engage. Check out wellnessnews.ca or skwellnesshub.ca today to learn more. If you'd like to see our content uncensored, we are now offering channel memberships. There is a lot of things we can't show you without getting restricted, so if you want the full conversation or to check out our merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are in the show notes below. So, tell us what happened on that morning.
I was laying on a couch in the foyer of an apartment building close around like Fraser and 30th area in Vancouver, East Van. And I was paralyzed, like I couldn't move. And I was like, this is weird. Like, something, did I have a stroke? Like, something's wrong. Am I here? What's wrong? But slowly, over a period of maybe 5 minutes, my fingers started moving, my wrist started moving. I was able to move. So I got up, and I actually got up, and I walked outside, and I walked to the street corner, and I walked down the street to Fraser Street. And across the street, there was a building with the small offices, and there was a dental office. And I walked into the dental office, and I asked the receptionist behind the counter if I could use the washroom. I said, "May I use your washroom?" And she looked at me, and I was polite, and she looked at me and she said, Are you a patient? Do you have an appointment? And I looked at her and I said, No, I just need to use the washroom. Can I use the washroom? She immediately got scared. I kicked the coffee table. The coffee table broke in half. And then I looked at her. She was absolutely terrified. And that terrifying look that she gave me, I got terrified because I had scared her. So I just left. I walked out of the dental office, and I was just walking down the street. And I don't know, Daniel. Like, everyone has their moment of clarity. You have yours. Everyone has theirs. I walked 4 blocks down the road, and I had just been thinking for months, how do I stop this? I just said to myself, as long as I ever live, I'll never have another drink in my life. And that was it. 2 hours after that, I was down at the Gathering Place Community Center. I was asking, what's the phone number for detox? How do I get into detox? And it wasn't 7 days after that I walked into detox on Thanksgiving night at 11 p.m. I walked into detox, and that was it for me. I was done. I couldn't live that way anymore. I was trying to die, I think, but I couldn't. And that little Filipino lady, I went back there a week and a half, 2 weeks later to apologize. And again, it wasn't until I went back that I realized that she actually saved my life. It was her that saved my life, because it was her that showed fear and death, that I actually saw death in her. It mirrored back to me. I looked at her and I said, that's death. She was so terrified I was going to hurt her, that she was in so much fear. And the only way I could recognize that was because I felt it inside. And I went to a meeting a couple of weeks in, and I was sitting at this meeting called Happy Destiny. And I sat down, and right in front of me, like literally the guy that was sitting right in front of me was a friend of mine that I've known since grade 4. I used to play t-ball with him in Prince George. And the last time he drank was with me. He drank when I got beat up in another bar fight, and he picked me up from the hospital a year and a bit prior. He saw me drunk, and that was it for him. So he had about a year and a half sober when I met him that night. One of his buddies, he looked at me, he goes, I know you. I'm like, oh shit, how do I know you? And this guy looks at me, his name's Jason Sutton, and Jay looks at me and Jay says, you were going to throw me off the Granville Street Bridge one night about 6 months ago. And like, you're sober now. And he wanted nothing from me. This is what blew me away the first year of my sobriety. Nobody wanted anything from me except for my time. They wanted me to come for coffees with them. They bought me lunch. They bought me coffees. They bought me a big book. Shit, they bought me clothes. Like, people just in the recovery circles, it just blows me away. Like, I didn't understand it. It really was, it was scary, because I didn't know what are they getting by giving me this? Like, why are they being a friend with this drunken stupor that, like, what do they want? They told me, Andrew, you got to help the person now, that new person coming into detox. And it was when I started helping the newcomer out, and I was able to help the person that was coming on off the street, not the people that come into sobriety with their house and their car and their wife and their husband and their job.
Why'd they even quit?
Yeah, you have to wonder, why didn't you lose your car? You didn't even lose a car. So I started working with these people that were like off the street people. Like, I had something to offer these people, and they loved me. Like, to be able to sit there for 3 minutes and listen, it's so empowering when you can help someone just by listening to them.
So when you were talking earlier about, and this really stood out to me, and I'm interested to hear your opinions and how you help people today because of these experiences. You said it was you were blown away at how easy it was to be homeless, and a pinnacle turning point for you was when someone stopped being nice and started being kind. There's a difference. There's a big difference between kindness and weakness. When that opinion formed in you, when you realized that perhaps having everything I need handed to me was not the best thing for me, and how do you use what you know now to help people?
To be able to grasp the concept of, how do I continue this path in recovery, is really profound, because I know what I have to do. And what I have to do is I have to help others. If I don't help people, and by telling them the truth. So I do that consistently with clients of mine over the past 2 decades that I've, ran group homes and done all the work that I've done. I am not afraid of being able to task the person what it is they want. A true friend is someone that's going to tell you what you necessarily don't want to hear, but it's true. You got to hear it. If you don't hear it, well, we're not going to be friends. We're just going to keep coasting downhill, coasting through life. And a car never coasts uphill. It always coasts slowly down. Just that simple. Just like that simple. After a while of being sober, I went back and worked in nightclubs as a doorman. And it was in those nightclubs that I actually honed that skill, where I was able to communicate with drunkards in a way that you can like tell them things and they can hear it. I think I honed that skill of like that fine line of, how do you ask someone what your problem is? Now I've sobered up probably, a dozen people in the first 3 years of just working in nightclubs. Just communicate. Like, people come to the bar to drink and have a party, and they'd leave going, I'm I got to go to AA. Andrew told me so. It's happened. It's happened many times. Like I
Well, I
got
gotta
people
say,
sober.
Andrew, that's probably not good for nightclub business.
It wasn't, but actually I did get a couple of the people sober, right? And unfortunately for me, they were important people.
Hmm.
They were
Hmm.
drinking too much, and their life was totally distracting. That's how I got the job working in a small little bar where like Nickelback became something, and Matthew Good became something. It was called the Hotel California,
Hmm.
and there was a guy that drank too much, and he came in to do this whole leg of the he's a big movie star in the NBA guy, but he was one of the guys that started the Commodore Ballroom, which was run by the hotel, or was run by the House of Blues Concerts Canada. And it was a result of me helping that guy get sober and calling him out on his drunkenness. He was the guy that actually helped me get that job working for House of Blues Concerts Canada. So
Hmm.
you don't know where you're going to help a person, you don't know when it's going to happen, but I think it's just important to be able to have that line of sight when you can see something, and when you can interfere or disrupt a bad pattern, say something. I think it's our duty as humans to be able to do that.
Well, you still spend a lot of time in the downtown east side, and
Always.
like your content on your YouTube channel. You go on the street and you just interview people on the street. What are you trying to change? Like, what are you trying to like? Why are you doing that?
I'm a Canadian, and I'm a proud Canadian, and I'm a proud British Columbian. And there is a bit of a personal situation that happened with me in 2007 when I had my second back surgery, and I came out of that surgery paralyzed from the waist down. And the doctors had me on 6 different types of medication, 2 of which were pretty heavy narcotics, from 2007 to 2019. These doctors just kept giving them to me. And after about 5 years, I think it was about 2012, 2015, when now the doctors are telling me that I have a problem with drugs. They were trying to get me to go from this or that. I'm just going like, what's going on? Like, why is this? What's going on? So they continued to push this on me. Now, in 2019, I was involved in another serious accident where I got T-bone, ended up in the hospital again, and I left the hospital on a triple dose of the medication that I was taking. And I was drooling at the dinner table. It was just that disgusting. And our medical system was just giving it freely. It just freely giving it out. Like by then, it was just like anybody that wanted to take it could just go to the doctors and get a script. And I knew then in 2020 that my addiction had taken over my life again. And I was back in 1995. But the only difference was I was that guy with the big 7 bedroom house on the west side of Vancouver with the cool, I had the nice car and the boat. So I had all that stuff. I had attained all that stuff. But I now had found myself back in active addiction. And other things came into my life that I didn't say no to during that time. And I'm running a foster home. I'm a foster parent. I've got very at risk kids living with me. I've got staff living with me. I'm a single dad to a child who was in grade 10 at private school at that time. And there I was waking up back addicted
Hmm.
and lost. Like Dan, I was completely lost. I never would have thought, with all the empowerment that I had from the people in the program early on, I would have never thought my life would have got back to this place. But I found myself there. I'll never forget laying in my bathroom on the cold tile floor, sweating. It's day 5, and I'm trying. I'm trying to stop. And I don't know how I got there. I just know that I was dying again. And I didn't want to die. I really wanted to live. I was now, like when I was sober, when I was on the street, I was trying to die, but I couldn't. And last year, I was trying to live and I couldn't. It was a mess. Addiction is the worst thing. And I kept, going downtown and anywhere I went in my neighborhood. And I live in one of the richest postal codes of Canada. and there are zombies walking in the neighborhoods, in the alleys. And I'm sitting there going, what can I do? I'm no longer a foster parent. I quit the work. I walked away because I couldn't deal with the government. So I went back to school. 2021, I went to the Justice Institute of BC, and I got all my accreditation to become a full civil and family mediator with an accreditation of advanced negotiation. And I wanted to be an interventionist, and I was helping people that way too. While I was on medication, I was actually, flying down to LA or flying to Florida and doing interventions.
Hmm.
Don't ask me how, but I did it. But when I got home and I wanted to get off the meds, and I did, I realized everyone else around me in our communities were suffering, and I didn't know how I could help. A friend of mine told me to watch you,
Hmm.
and a friend of mine pointed to a couple of other people like you. And I'm sitting at home during COVID completely. I couldn't get my together, and then all of a sudden I could hear other people tell the story in an impactful way that was so impactful because there's a professional person in a computer screen asking questions to people about how they got through their shit. I really wanted to have this opportunity to say thank you to you,
Hmm.
because if it wasn't for you and if it wasn't for the system that we live in that we might hate right now, I wouldn't have got some messages that I needed to hear. So I got it. And I went to the hospital and I said, okay, what do I need? I can't stop this myself. So I went on for a year. And then I started going to school, to UBC medical school, and I started doing some research on they're changing the language from the disease of addiction to disorder. And then they're now curing disorders by giving out new medication. So Daniel, I've had a very interesting life. I know a lot of politicians. I know a lot of big players around. Let's just say I know a lot of people. So if there's anyone that can get the message to these people, and if there's anyone that can tell a story that will impact those people so that they can make some change, it'll be someone like me. So this is what I did last spring. I said, I'm going to buy one of these cameras. Everyone else says they can YouTube, so I'm going to too. So I just grabbed my camera one day, and I I'm going to say last January, I bought an ice tub. I started Suboxone, and I started doing ice plunges every day. So I ended up, anyways, I stopped taking all this stuff. But last summer, I rented a motorhome and I said, I got to go see my province for myself. I got to go and see with my own eyes. I don't listen to people. I can't hear people. I'll hear someone's story when they're impactful and they tell and they cry on the screen and I know they're telling the truth. I can hear that. But I can't listen to all these politicians and stuff. I put my ice tub in the pack. I put the barbecue in the back. I put the kids in the truck. And we drove for 9 weeks across the province of BC. And I was able to see exactly what was going on in my province. And I was absolutely blown away by the toxicity that's out there on the streets of people just walking aimlessly in total in trance of medication, a doctor induced medication. Yeah, they're done. It's over for them. It's like all their teeth are missing. They're hunched over. The system's broken. So I just started YouTubing. And last fall, I did my first video up in Prince George, where I grew up. I went to Prince George, and they have this place called Moccasin Flats where all the homeless people are. And I stayed up there for 5 days. My friend, I went up there initially because my friend that I used to party with back in high school got sober. He was 1 year sober. So drove up. I flew up. Thursday night, he took his 1 year cake. Friday night, we watched the Mike Tyson kebab fight. It wasn't
Hmm.
really a fight. We watched the dance of Mike Tyson, his last dance. And for the next 4 nights, I just walked the streets at night and talked to the homeless people. And I realized that all the skills that I had acquired being homeless back in the 90s, all the skills that I had acquired working in nightclubs, learning how to communicate at that early entrance part of my life, and then all the 20 years of working with all those kids, I had this skill and I needed to amplify it. So I just started going out and talking to these people on the street. You asked me that question. Why do you do this? Like, what are you trying to prove? Like, I wanted to find out why it is the government, who made it so easy for everyone to be homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had learned over the past 6 months is that the government's just giving out free, and the government's giving out free housing. And the government, if you're in an SRO, they wash your clothes. They bring food to your door and hand you dinners. Like, they have catering companies that bring people free dinners, free breakfasts. Every 3 days, you get your clothes washed. And people just sit in their rooms with a TV in front. And if the government's not giving you meds, they're buying them from people that live in these SROs. People are dying. And the street people now, Dan, the people that are on the street right now, they are afraid to actually go into the SROs. And they've been doing this clean sweep, they call it, the last couple of weeks in Vancouver, where the mayor of Vancouver and the police chief got together and gave $5 million to the police department to push people off the street. Now, I know the reason they're doing that is because there's been so many people dying in the SROs that there's more rooms available. So now they're pushing people off the street. So the people are, and they're saying, you can go to these SROs because there's all these rooms available. Well, of course the rooms are available because everybody that moved in there in the past 2 years have now died. Like, a third of them are gone. The rooms are empty. And nobody's talking about it, Dan. And I'm so grateful that I've had this opportunity. I just came back from Vancouver Island. I just met with John. I had a beautiful meeting with John Rustad. He's the head of the Conservative Party. I had some absolutely amazing conversations this weekend. I've helped out probably a dozen people in the last 6 months to a year get into detox, just because I went and asked them, do you like doing this? There's answers. If you want answers, I can help you. If you want, I'm not going to tell you unless you ask me. But if you want to know how to do this, I'll tell you how to get into detox. And then you see them again the next week. And then you see them again the next week. And then they're like, wow, this person really cares. Maybe I should ask them, how do I get it? And then they get it. It's all you can do is just sort of put it in front of them and let them make the decision. But the big thing is not, they're talking in BC about this involuntary care. They call it involuntary care. So they're talking about the police making the decision who goes and who doesn't go, which is wrong. The government should set up a contract, and that's what what's one of the things I'm working on, is to create a new type of funding where people like me can be hired to actually go down and communicate with these people on the street and help them with their decision making to make the choice to go to treatment. All I can do is try. I want to give it a shot and see if I can and make some change. Like,
where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on my YouTube channel. They can find me on my website, bromeconsulting.ca.
Thanks for joining us today, Andrew. It was a pleasure walking through your story with you, and I look forward to things to come. And if you are watching this, go look in the show notes below. There's links to Andrew's stuff. Check out his YouTube channel and learn how to make some ginger shots and talk to people on Granville Street. We'll cap it there. Thanks so much, Andrew.
Thanks, bro.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.